Tonight, our main speaker is Gustavo. Help me welcome Gustavo.
I'm Gustavo. I'm an alcoholic. And my sobriety date is March 23rd, 2011. And through the grace of God and the work I put in Alcoholics Anonymous, I've been able to stay sober. And why I say the work I put in Alcoholics Anonymous, not because I'm boasting myself or nothing, but when I was early on sobriety, I thought that, and I'm going to jump back and forth all over the place, so bear with me. I thought that I deserved Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, it was owed to me, and it was supposed to be given to me, because if you lived the life I lived when I was a kid, and you've been through what I've been through, you would understand why I drink the way I drink. And because of that, I deserved Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's supposed to be given to me freely without putting any work in it. It's due to me. It's got to be paid to me. It's due. And I didn't understand that when I got here. And I remember it took me 3 months to get a sponsor. I don't recommend that to anybody. And finally, when I asked the guy to sponsor me, that was the first thing he told me. He said, Alcoholics Anonymous is not for people that want it or for people that need it. He was very clear. He's like, it's for people that do the work. He said, period. He's like, you're not going to get anything out of this if you don't put anything into it. And I was like, oh, this guy's a total ass, dude, what the hell? I didn't like being talked to like that. I wanted to be pampered. I wanted to be coddled. I remember one time he said in a meeting he took his sponsees to breakfast and stuff, and I was in my home group at night, and I got very resentful during the meeting. And when I shared, I was like, dude, you ain't never taken me to breakfast. And everybody laughed because they thought I was joking, but I was serious. I was like, how come they get to go to breakfast and you take them to breakfast and you don't take me? What's wrong with me? How come I'm not, you don't want me, or why am I different? Why you treat me different? And I came with that card when I got here to Alcoholics Anonymous. I was always a little different. And I always found the negative on everything. Why you don't say hi to me? I'm the victim. And if you would say hi to me, I would get pissed off because you're talking to me. But if you didn't talk to me, I would get pissed off because you don't talk to me. And I used to play the race card a lot. I used to play the race card, oh, because I'm Mexican. Oh, you think I'm the gardener, and all this crap. And later on, there's another story behind that gardener thing. So I came in with a lot of baggage. I came in with a lot of guilt, but at the same time, I was always like this. I was either better than you or I was not good enough. But I could never be in the middle and look at you guys in the eye. I could never do that. So I drank. I started drinking at a very young age. And the first time I came home, and pardon me, drugs is part of my story. I'm going to try not to speak about them a lot. But I remember the first time I drank that I got busted drinking. I came from a party, and I was like 13 years old, and I was all coked up, and I was drunk as hell. And I got home. And I was raised by a woman. I didn't have a dad. And she's a little lady. She's short, but she's feisty, man. Oh, man. So I got home, and I'm stumbling, and I'm standing there, and she was waiting for me. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and she was waiting for me. And she said, is this time to come home, boss? She would say, boss, when she was about to kick my butt. She's like, is it a time to come home? And I said, and I have my hands in my pocket. And she just started wailing on me. She was pissed. So I went to the room, and I went to sleep. And the next morning, I didn't get up to go to school. But she got up at 4 in the morning and went to work after sleeping only 1 hour. When she came back from work, I was in bed because the boss had a hangover. So, you can't go to school with a hangover. And I remember she came in the room, and she was very pissed. And she said, you didn't go to school? I said, no, I didn't. I have a hangover, I couldn't get up. And she's like, I waited for you all night for you to come home. And I stayed here, and I still got up and went to work. And you tell me you couldn't go to school? And she was pissed, so she put another beating on me. And then she brought out a bottle of tequila, and she put it on the table. And she said, well, if you want to drink, then we're going to drink. And she thought that she was going to cure me from alcoholism by giving me more alcohol that I can handle. And we drank the whole bottle, and she made me keep drinking. And I said, I don't want no more. No, you're going to keep drinking. I said, I don't want no more. And I puked, and she made me chuck the bottle down. And to me, I felt bad the next day. I don't like hangovers, but that didn't cure me. I continued drinking. I enjoyed drinking. I didn't understand that I was maladjusted to life without alcohol. That I didn't fit in when I was in drinking. I was more calm drinking than I was sober. Sober, I had a lot of anger. People were afraid of me. Um, I was classified in my high school as a ticking bomb, and that I was most likely to hurt somebody or hurt myself by the time I hit 18. And they put a shrink on me and all this stuff. And that was sober. But when I drank, I was more calm. And I don't know if it was because it was either drank or using drugs. I don't know if it was because I knew that I wasn't in my right state of mind, and if I did something, I wasn't going to know what was going on. But I was calm, but I didn't understand why at the time still. And so fast forward to all my drinking when I was still in school and stuff, in high school, and ditching and having parties at the house and drinking and all that. I graduated high school and I picked up outside issues. I picked up drugs, and it all went downhill from there. It worked for a while, but the only thing that would calm me down the most was the drinking, the alcohol for me. And I remember when they put that shrink on me, the shrink wanted to talk to me. Why was I so angry? Why I couldn't open up to her, or it was a him. I couldn't open up to him, and I just couldn't. I didn't know how to talk to people. I was very friendly, like for about a couple minutes, but after that, it was over. When I was 13, I was sexually molested, and I was abused. It was verbally abused and physically abused. So by the time I hit 13 and a half, I knew that what I was going to do, and it was alcohol and drugs from there on. And there was a switch that happened, and I didn't stop till I was about 30 years old. And throughout all that time, I used to ask God, I used to tell God, if you could just give me money, a wife, kids, a horse, and a truck, I'm going to be okay. If you could just give me those things, but the horse has got to be there, and the wife, and the kids, and the truck, and I'm going to be okay. So fast forward to 27 years old, I met a woman, and she had horses and stuff and all this and that. So I started getting everything, the family and all that stuff. And everything was handed to me in a silver platter. But because I didn't know how to enjoy life, I didn't know what was wrong with me at the time. I didn't know how to appreciate what was already being given to me. To me, it was still something was still owed to me. So for the first 3 years, I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun, and I lied a lot. I lied a lot to my fiance at the time, and I told her that life was great when it wasn't. And it took me 3 years for me to throw all that away and started going on my binges again. And I was drinking a lot throughout the time. And we went to a party once, a company party, and I remember we got so wasted. And she has kids, and I didn't have kids. So we were driving home, and I was swerving all over the place, but we made it home. And the next morning when we spoke, she said, you know what, we're never doing that again. We're not going to drive like that. I have kids. I got to be more responsible. And I said, I promise from now on, either you're going to drink or I'm going to drink. And every time we went, it was her turn to drink, and for some reason, I would always end up getting drunk. And I would end up driving drunk or had 5, 6 beers, and I would tell her, no, I'm fine with 5 or 6. But in the background, I was taking some shots of tequila and stuff. And she couldn't figure out why every time on the way home, I was a crier when I drank too. Oh man, was I a crier. I would get wasted, and then on the way home, and this is how she knew that I was drunk when I was driving, because I would start crying, oh, I love you, babe, and you're the best thing that ever happened to me. And I would just go off, and she would just sit there and nod. And we used to drive up to Arizona when we bought our property up here, and I always drank. There was no ifs or buts. I had my bottle, I had tequila in the truck, and I had beer. And I had found a woman that would facilitate the beer when I was driving, so I didn't even have to worry about that. She would pass me the beer, open it for me and stuff, and I thought everything was great. I didn't think there was nothing wrong with it. We got pulled over here, and I had an open container. She helped me cover it up. I didn't get busted for that, but after that, I wasn't allowed to drink and drive anymore. And I still kept drinking a lot. There was drinking. I could never do drugs and alcohol at the same time. It was one or the other. And I could always tell when I was about to jump into the outside issue because I would stop drinking. And it was easy to quit. But my head had already played the scenario in my head. I had already been fantasizing. I had already been thinking about it, dreaming about it, going to sleep, thinking about it, irritable, discontent. I couldn't find any ease and comfort. And I still didn't understand none of that till I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, that I am maladjusted to life. You know, Brent was talking about the part in the book, in the Spanish book, and I didn't know how to read when I got here, by the way. I was 30 years old, didn't know how to read English or Spanish. It made it even worse. And so when I got here, I got into one of my, I think it was the third meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I walked into this home group. It became my home group after. There was like 60 men around in a circle, and I only went to that meeting because it was closer to the house where I was staying to work on the relationship with my fiance at the time, because she had kicked me out after my last binge. And she had said, you know what, if you can't stay sober no more, she had my duffel bag and she threw it at me and she said, then you need to get the F out of here. I need to take care of my kids. And I was very resentful of that, because don't you understand, I have a problem and I need help, and you're turning your back on me, the victim again, because I'm always the victim. Either I'm the aggressor or I'm the victim. But I would take the blame only when I was manipulating the situation to make you think that I was being honest, so that you can give me what you want. I don't know if you guys can relate to that. I see a lot of people nodding like, yeah, you only get it if you've done it. So I used to do that. I was very good at that. I'm very good at manipulating people. And so she kicked me out. I wasn't supposed to come home. Her kids didn't want anything to do with me. Obviously, I had been sober for a little while before, just from drugs, but I was drinking. And my stepson, I used to tell him all the time, like, oh, don't use drugs, they're bad for you, don't use drugs. And then I started going on my binges and disappearing for 4 days at a time. And he confronted me one time with that, and he said, dude, you're over here on a high horse telling me what not to do, and you're taking off and doing it. And he lost all respect for me. My stepdaughter lost all respect for me. And I had barely worked up on building a relationship with her. And as I was sitting there, I was thinking about that. It was 5 years before she even acknowledged me as a stepdad. And I had been sober 3 years and a half, 4 years already by that time. And she was surfing in California. She fell, busted her chin, and she called us. She couldn't get a hold of mom, so she called me, and she said, gee, I'm trying to get a hold of my mom. I'm going to the hospital. I need stitches. My chin got busted. I dropped everything I was doing, went and picked up my wife now, and we went to the ER. She said, you guys don't have to come. I said, no, we're on our way. And when I got there, it was one of the first times that as I'm walking in the hospital, they wouldn't let me in because I wasn't a parent. So they only let my wife in. And she pushed the nurses out of the way, and she looked up holding her chin, and she said, no, let him in. That's my stepdad. And we hadn't had a relationship for a long time. And this is what Alcoholics Anonymous has to offer for anybody that wants it and wants to do the work. You know, you show up when you're supposed to show up, and you show up when you don't even want to show up. But there's a lot of work involved to get to that point. And I was so angry the first 3.5 years of my sobriety that I didn't know what I was doing here in Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't understand that. Why was I so angry? What am I doing here? I mean, I walked into this room with 60 men, and they were all white, and I have this race card with me all the time, and I'm sitting down, and they're reading. And I sit down, and there's this big dude that kind of went like this, and I sat next to him. And when the book came around to me, I'm holding it, 30 years old, and I'm holding the book, and I can't read. And the guy scoots his chair over, and he starts whispering every word on the whole page. And he helps me read. That Tuesday, the following Tuesday, the following Tuesday. And every time I walked in, he would turn around, look at me, and say, here, sit down. And I would sit there, and he would scoot his chair, and he would help me read. And this is a stranger. I didn't know this guy. This guy didn't have to do it. But he did it. And I didn't understand that another human being that you didn't know, you never seen, you never trusted, can show that kind of love and appreciation for another human being. Because I have that race card, don't you know? I've been mistreated all this time, don't you know? And I would always question, what am I doing in this room full of white people? What do I have to offer to all these people? They come from good families, they got money, they got everything. I'm broke, I don't even have a house, I'm staying at my brother's. I'm working at a gay club as a bouncer for the weekend just to get enough gas to make it through the week to go to my meeting close to my fiance's house. So it was very, to me, it was very blurry at the time. I didn't understand what Alcoholics Anonymous had for me. And at 3.5 years sober, me and my fiance were riding at the time, and I was so angry that she mentioned to me, she didn't mention me, she told me. She's like, dude, why don't you take a drink? She said, take a drink. She's like, I don't think I can get married to a person like you. And I was so pissed off about that because I've been working so hard going to meetings, having commitments, picking up guys. Nobody wanted what I had. That's another thing. Like, I would pick up these guys and take them to meetings, and I was always expecting something in return when I would pick up this guy. So I would pick up this guy for about 3 months, pick him up all the time, go to dinner, go to the meeting. And then at the meeting, he would say, hey, dude, I was thinking of asking that guy to sponsor me. What do you think? And I would be like, dude, really? I've been carding you for 3 months. You haven't given me gas money. You know, the least you can do is ask me to sponsor you, but you're going to ask someone else? Well, I don't know, I guess. You know, and I always expect something in return when I do something. I didn't know how to do anything for fun and for free. So if I gave you something, I was expecting something in return. I didn't know what it was at the time, but when the time came, I was going to character assassinate you because you didn't do what you didn't know that you were supposed to do because I gave you something. Does that make sense? And it was already being played in my head. So being angry like that for the first 3 years of my sobriety and having commitments, picking up guys, two meetings a day, and I was asked to go speak in a recovery home it was a panel, an AA panel, and I met 2 guys there that just came out of prison, and we started reading the book. And there was one time when we got to one of the forwards where it says, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have similarly recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. And right when we read that and I had them underline it, they told me I had to leave. They said, you got to go. Somebody brought heroin into the place. You can't be here. You're going to have to go. So I left. But before I left, I kind of pointed at the part in the book and I asked the guys, did you guys understand what this says? And they were like, yeah, Holmes, you made us underline it. We get it. I said, no, dude, purpose. The main purpose of this book. And they're like, yeah, dude, you got to go. And I'm sitting there and I'm crying because I didn't understand the purpose. And I had asked my sponsor like a week before, what's my purpose here? And there I realized that to help other alcoholics and show them precisely how I am recovering is the main purpose. And that's what I found in that book right there. And I've read that so many times, but I wasn't open for it yet. So it was Wednesday, and Wednesday was dinner night, family night. So my wife had allowed me to go and read with those guys, and it was going to be okay. But when I got in my truck right after that, she said, the dinner's going to be ready. Don't worry about it. Take an hour or whatever, and it's going to be okay. And I called my sponsor, and I told him, dude, I just found it in the book, and it says this, and that. And he just laughed. And he says, it's okay, little buddy. Just keep doing what you're doing. I used to hate when he called me little buddy. And I went home, and I opened the book, and I said, babe, look at right here in the book. And I'm sitting in the coffee table, and I was like, the main purpose, to show other alcoholics precisely how I've recovered. And she's like, yeah, dude, dinner's getting cold. I said, no, you don't understand. You don't understand the purpose right here. And to me, it was a big deal. I mean, up to this point, I have done concrete since I was 16. I was 30 already. So my identity was a concrete finisher, construction guy. That was my identity. And I had stopped working concrete before I got sober. And I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I needed to do in this world. So to find that in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous was really an eye-opener for me. I said, I have a purpose. And I would have never found that if I hadn't talked to a sponsor, ask a guy to sponsor me, ask him to walk me through the program and show me what the program really means. Because the magic doesn't happen, for me, the magic didn't happen when I was trying to sit there and read the book alone. I didn't know how to read. So this stranger sat with me and read with me for a year so I can go through my steps with a dictionary, like a little, I don't know when you learn how to read, 4 years old or something like that. And he sat there and he opened the book and he's like, do you know what that word says? And I said, no. Well, the word is anonymity. Do you know what that means? I said, no. We're going to look it up. So we would look it up. And then he would say, can you use it in a sentence? It's like, dude, what am I, 5? But that's what I needed at the time in order to understand what the book was trying to tell me, to explain to me what I suffer from. I suffer from a mental disease that wants to kill me. And sadly, a lot of us come into this program and we treat this like a common cold. We come in here, we're just going to get healthy to go out there and go on our next run. And I don't even think when I got here I had hit my bottom. I know my wife had hit her bottom. So if I wanted to get back with her, I had to do this program. And I think that's why I was angry for those first 3 years, because I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to quit drinking. But I didn't understand that I needed drinking in order to continue to be okay in life. And when that got pulled away from me, the irritable and discontent that comes out in the book that they talk about, that's what was coming out through me. Because everything, to me, alcohol was a solution for everything. If I was sad, take a couple shots, and I was happy. If I was happy, we were going to celebrate. Victory shot. If I wanted to be romantic, take a couple shots, and now you're good to go. You're all lubed up. So everything if I had a problem I couldn't solve or something, I'm going to take a couple shots and really think about it. So everything was revolved around drinking, and that was my solution for everything. So when that pulled away, my solution for being okay was taken away. So I got left with the person in front of me that I didn't want to face for 30 years. I didn't want to face what happened to me when I was 13. I didn't drink and use drugs because of what happened to me when I was 13. That's not the reason why I drank. The doctor's opinion talks to us, and it tells us that alcoholics drink, men and women drink essential because we like the effect produced by alcohol. It doesn't say because you were molested. It doesn't say because you were beaten, because you were tied to a tree. No. It says because we like the effect produced by alcohol, which is alcohol kind of gets you out of that and puts that behind, and you're okay. It quiets the mind. It quiets the voices. But it got to the point where the voices got louder and louder and louder, and no amount of alcohol can stop the voices anymore. So there I went into drugs, and I was trying to find it there. But then you start using a little meth, and then you start panicking, and you end up in a tree with a knife in your mouth waiting for somebody to kill. That happened too. At 2 a.m. in the middle of winter. And so you start looking for something else that's going to quiet those voices, and that's what happened to me. And finding out that I was maladjusted to life, how I said before, was a blow. The first step says we admitted we're powerless over alcohol and their lives have become unmanageable. In Spanish, it says, admitimos que éramos impotentes contra el alcohol. We admitted we were impotent against alcohol. I don't know about you guys, but for a male, impotent, it's, dude, you're hitting me right there where it hurts. You know what I mean? Especially machismo, Hispanic and all this. You tell me I'm impotent about something, I'm going to show you I'm not, and I can handle drinking. And the other part where the book talks about the daily reprieve contingent of the maintenance of our spiritual condition, in the Spanish book, it says, all we have is a daily reprieve. All we have is a suspension from our death sentence, contingent of the maintenance of our spiritual condition. So even there it's telling me that what I suffer from wants to kill me, 110%. And I don't need to be drinking to act like that person. I don't. My character defects and my anger, it's not old behavior. I don't see it as old behavior. I see it as behavior, because I can turn on that person in a heartbeat. It is not old behavior. The moment I stop doing what I'm supposed to be doing, which is having contact with other alcoholics, talking to my sponsor, and saying my prayers, and having a conscious contact with my higher power, that's the moment that I revert back into the old Gustavo. And the anger comes. And my dogs don't even want to be a part of me. I will come home and the dogs go, they go. They don't want to be a part of it. They feel the energy. So that daily reprieve, it only comes contingent of the maintenance of my spiritual condition. And that's something that when I got here, I wanted nothing of. I didn't want no connection with God. I didn't want to work with other alcoholics, take the time out of my day to go sit down with this dude that probably won't stay sober. I didn't want to do none of that because I'm selfish and self-centered to the core. I just wanted to come in here. Please show me how to control my drinking, how to get my wife back, how to manipulate the situation again, and then I'm going to be okay. And in return, I got the 5th step promises, which those are very important to me. Because after I did the 4th step and I realized who I was, what I'm really about, and how I really treat people, I was able to understand who I really am. And then I got that peace of mind that the 5th step promises talks about. You can look at the world in the new eye. That's the one that's more important to me than any of the promises. It doesn't say anything about a horse or a truck or a wife or anything, but it says you're going to be able to look at the world in the eye. Since I was 13 till I was 30, I was 32 at the time, I couldn't sit here and have a conversation with anybody and look at anybody in the eye because I was so ashamed of everything I did. Ashamed, anger, disgusted, you call it, I had it. And when I did my 5th step and my sponsor tried to give me a hug, and I told him, I wrote everything down. Everything, stuff that I didn't want to tell him. And I said, this date, and I mumbled it. He said, wait a minute. Say it out loud and say it so I could understand it. And I would say it, and it was like a blow to my ego, repeating the stuff that I had done. But after that, the guy tried to give me a hug, and I said, no, dude, no. And he hugged me, and he said, I love you, kid. Forgive yourself. You're going to be okay. And when I walked out of his house, I was so disgusted with myself. I was so embarrassed. And I said, dude, oh my God, this guy's going to go around and telling everybody. When I walk to the home group again, they're going to know everything I've done. And up to today, nobody knows anything I've done. It's between me and him. But 6 months after that, I was shaving. And that part of the promise is you're going to look at the world in the eye. When I was shaving, I stared myself in the eye, and I stared and I stared and I stared, and when I came to, my shaving cream was dry. It had never happened to me. So I cleaned up, I went to my morning meditation meeting, and I shared about it. From there on, I got that promise. I can look at the world in the eye. You know, I'm okay with what I've done. Is it bad? Yes, I've done a lot of bad stuff that I probably shouldn't have done. But I'm okay with that, and I have a lifetime that I can make living amends for that. I don't have to keep beating myself over it. And it's all thanks to the program and a power greater than myself that has given me that freedom. But I couldn't find that freedom if I didn't try doing those principles. Because I used to go to meetings and I used to say, oh, I apply these principles in all of my affairs. You know, and all of my character defects and my shortcomings. Dude, I was 4 years sober. I didn't even know what the hell was a character defect. I didn't know the definition of a character defect or of a shortcoming. I remember I was on my 5th retreat with my home group, and I asked my sponsor, I said, dude, what the hell is a character defect? And what's a shortcoming? Because I'm sharing about it like I know what the hell I'm talking about. And he said, pretty simple, he said, a character defect, he's like, is shit that you're doing that you shouldn't be doing. He's like, and a shortcoming is stuff that you should be doing that you're not doing. And I was like, holy shit. And there it made sense to me what a character defect is and what a shortcoming is. And now every time I think about that, say I'm passing by the house and I see the laundry on the floor, which I still don't put it in the washer. And I look at it and I just push it over and walk over. That's a character defect. And I know I should probably pick it up and put it in the washer. But, you know, I don't want to take that privilege from my wife. You know. She's right there. That's why I said it. But I can still see my alcoholism today, right here, right now. I don't suffer from alcohol, was it? It's alcoholism today. It brings back, we only have 24 hours today. Tomorrow's not a promise. Yesterday already passed. And today, what am I doing today for myself? What am I doing today for another alcoholic? And what am I doing? How am I behaving on my daily living? Those are the thoughts that have been going through my head lately. You know, and the anger went away. 4 years into it, we got married 5 years. I think I was 5 years sober when we got married, and we were walking. We were riding our horses, and my sponsor had called my wife and had told her, you know, before, like about when I was like in my first year, I think, and I didn't know about this conversation, but he said, you know, if you let Alcoholics Anonymous take a hold of him He's like, you're going to get back, you give him to us for at least 4 to 5 years, and you're going to get back a man that you're not going to recognize. And she was very angry at the time, and I don't blame her. I put this woman through hell. And why she stuck with me, I don't know. But she said, no, I don't think so, you and your program, and she was not for it. Well, 5 years later, before we got married, we were riding our horses, and she did tell me. She stopped and she said, you know, your sponsor talked to me a year into your sobriety and said that if I allowed you to be in Alcoholics Anonymous, that you were going to change, you were going to be a better person. And she sat there on the horse crying and telling me that she was wrong. And she knew there was a good person inside of me, but she didn't know to what extent. And she was very proud of me. And she's like, I got a man and a husband that I'm very proud of. And I love you for all the work you've done. That's got nothing to do with me anymore. It's got to do with the program, the reliance on God. If I open my mind and I let another man guide me or woman in this program, that I find something that's attractive in that person and that has a quality of sobriety, because we can have years, but the quality, and I take guidance from it, I'm going to have a life that I can't even think of. And that's what my life is today. My life, I'm very blessed in a lot of ways. But you give me a couple minutes by myself in my head, and I'll tell you why I'm not living right and why I should have more than what I'm having. And I got more of stuff that I could deal with and I can do with. But my disease is always wants me more. I want that, and now I want that one, and I want that in different color. Well, you're supposed to have 2 colors, so I'll have 4 colors so that, I can mix match. And I still have all those isms. I still have all that. I can't just have one of one thing. I got to have 2 of another. And Alcoholics Anonymous has given me that freedom to kind of look at that and say, okay, dude, woe down, talk to somebody before you start making decisions that you don't know how to deal with. And it's been, for me, I don't know, I can't say enough for Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous saved my life, saved my marriage, saved me from me, and because I go through the steps, I try to live the steps on my daily living, I'm able to be a good son, a good husband, I hope, right? Yes, very good. She said very good. A good husband, a good brother. When I did my first, speaking of brothers and a good son, when I did my first amends to my mom, I was a year and a half sober. Yeah, and I got 5 minutes. I was a year and a half sober. And when I went and told my mom, I'm sorry for the way I did. I took a son away from you. Yeah. My mom sat in front of me. She put a chair. She put her hand on my shoulder and she says, "You're my son. You're my blood. I raised you the best I could." She's like, it's not my fault you don't have a pair of balls. She said that you can say no. So I sat there and she told me that it's not my fault you don't have a pair of balls. She's like, so I'm not taking that blame. You can take that yourself, but you're my son and I'm going to love you no matter what. And I walked away like, wow, really? And then I went and I took a friend with me because my sponsor said, take somebody with you because it wasn't going to be pretty, so I did. So on the way back, I told him, he was pissed. He was furious that she said that. And I was like, dude, I know she's in a lot of pain. I caused it. He's like, dude, no one has a right to tell that to anybody. He said, no one has a right to treat somebody like that and belittle somebody like that. So I was like, all right. So 5 years later, I'm working with this other guy, and he relapsed. And he ended up in the hospital. And his mom, he had been sober for 2.5 years, and his mom called me one afternoon, and she was crying, and she said that they don't understand what happened. He was doing so good. And he stopped going to meetings, and he stopped calling me, and he started putting his work before the meetings and stuff. So she's like, my husband tried to commit suicide this morning because he hadn't had an episode of PTSD episode from being in Vietnam. He said he hadn't had an episode in over 5 years. And today he tried to commit suicide because he said, if God wants me to be alive to see my kid die, I am not going to do that. And this guy is very religious. And she's like, I have never seen my husband like that in over 5 years. And the lady was crying, and she was crying. I'm sitting there listening to her. And it just brought everything back to me, what I did to my mom, what I did to her, the way I made her cry. Because she would tell me, she's like, I've been praying to God that he takes you because I don't want to see you killing yourself anymore. He said, I've been praying to God. I've been asking him to kill you, to take you. I don't want to see this anymore, or to take me. And it brought back a lot of memories. So at that point, after I hung up with her, because I got to see what I really did from an outside perspective, looking into another relationship, and that's another gift of working with other alcoholics. You get to see the chaos you created in your own life with your own parents, with your own wife or husband. And I called my mom and I talked to her. I said, Mom, I want to talk to you. And she's like, this is not the time. I said, no, I think this is the time we need to have this conversation. And we had a conversation. We're sitting on the phone for about 3 hours. She's like, this is not an itch you want to scratch right now, son. I'm in a very bad place, and I don't want to say something that's going to hurt you. She was in a bad place, but I felt like I was in a better place. My higher power knew I was in a better place. So we sat there. This woman told me for 3 hours what I did, point by point, exactly everything I did. 60% of that was true. The other 40, I didn't agree with it, but I sat through it. We cried, we laughed, and I told her, you got to tell me, what am I doing wrong still in sobriety? Because I keep reaching out and you keep knocking my hand down and you keep not wanting to be a part of my life. I'm sober now. I want to share my life with you, and you don't want anything to do with that. And she's like, well, if you can't figure it out, I'm not going to tell you. And I said, Mom, we're not in Mexico no more, man. Mom, we're in the USA. We got to speak about these things now. You know, and she's like, wow. And she opened up and she told me, in sobriety, I was still belittling her. I would go visit her, and my mom loves to cook for us. And every time she would cook, like every Mexican mom, they love cooking. And she always said, that's all I have to offer you guys. So when you guys come over, I cook for you guys, and I will leave money on the table, or I would put $100 in her purse. And that was insulting to her, and I didn't know that. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was doing okay. But I was robbing her from the pride of her giving me a gift, which it was cooking. And I was still the same person that was treating her like crap, using and drinking, sober, thinking that I was better than her, so I'm going to give you money for what you just did for me, and not accepting the love that she was giving me. So we had that conversation. After the conversation, I asked her, I said, Mom, how you feeling now? And she said, I'm doing a lot better. She's like, thank you for forcing me to speak. She's like, I feel a lot better. Our relationship, I'm not going to say is rainbows and unicorns and stuff, but it's gotten a lot better from where it was 4 years ago. And it's all thanks to Alcoholics Anonymous. I get to be a son. Regardless of what she tells me, what she thinks of me, what pisses me off, you know, I got my sponsor to talk to him about my issues. But the face that I put outside my house after speaking to a sponsor and to my higher power reflects on Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's the life that Alcoholics Anonymous has given me. So with that, I'll pass. Thank you very much.